Welcome to Spike Week, where we're talking elite tight ends in best ball and fantasy football. Every year is a little bit different, and 2025 certainly feels different among the elite tight ends. We have a crop that we haven't seen in quite a while. Should we draft? Why? What power do Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, and George Kittle bring to the table for our teams? And then can I get them in a couple of Best Ball Mania drafts? That's what we're going to do today. Let's do it. Yes. Time to wake up. B-Mac says I was 2 minutes late getting the old AirPods and audio set up. Shout out StreamYard for always being the most difficult possible streaming platform ever with audio. GM to Bruce from California, awfully early in California. Shout out to Bruce for hanging out early in the morning, California time. Good morning. Yeah, Bruce, we'll talk some elite tight ends, and then I promised you we would hit on this question last week, and we'll get back to it. GM. Let's see. Bowers looks like he's been up all night from the thumbnail. That is funny. Happy Wednesday. I gotta say, if you are a non-NFL best ball player as well, it's a wonderful time this week. We just got college football on Underdog. We're about to get NBA on Underdog. I imagine we will get NBA soon after on Drafters. We're holding out, fingers crossed, hope for other sites to pick up the college sports as well. It's a wonderful time. And of course, at Spike Week, we cover all of the stuff, right? We're going to talk a lot of NFL. We're going to talk about the elite tight ends, do a couple Best Ball Mania drafts today. But if you are a subscriber, you want to dabble in college football, or you're interested in college football or NBA, MLB, PGA, NHL, whatever, Drafters, DraftKings, Underdog, all the rankings and all the content it all comes in your one monthly subscription, right? We're not upcharging you for all this shit. That has become the industry standard. We're sticking $40 a month, and we just decreased our annual subscription price from $300 down to $200. So if you purchase an annual subscription, right, you only pay $200 for absolutely everything. All the tools that you'll see here today, Draft Hacker, Draft IQ, everything, all comes with that subscription. One-time fee of $200. Or if you want to pay monthly, it's $39.99 a month. But with the college football and everything coming out, I wanted to shout out that while we talk almost exclusively NFL, I'm a huge NBA fan. Shout out Summer League starting tomorrow. We will be grinding some Summer League in the betting and DFS streets, which of course we'll be talking in the Discord, which the premium channels come as part of your subscription as well to Spike Week. But let's get down to some elite tight end talk, right? So we're going to follow this up. I'm going to try to squeeze in 2 Best Ball Mania drafts. So I'll have to not ramble for too long here about the elite tight ends before we dive in. I mentioned every single year is like a little bit different. And I think that's why it's really, really hard to think about a strategy specifically like at the onesie positions, quarterback and tight end, but really at tight end, and look at like last year and think about, should we draft, an elite at this position, right? Air quotes, an elite. And you would start with like, what does elite mean? In our definitions and all of our tools, we use the same definitions year after year. And so that works well, honestly, at like the running back position, at the quarterback position. At the tight end position, it can be a little bit difficult. Last year, what people would classify as elite can really, really vary. And quite frankly, the very first tight end, the elite of the elites at the tight end position last year was Sam Laporta. And Sam Laporta is a very good football player, the pride of Highland, Illinois. But I don't think anyone, even the biggest Sam Laporta fans, would have said, this guy is like prime Travis Kelce. I can't believe we're getting such a steal in the 3rd round with Sam Laporta. And so last year doesn't really compare to this year. If we're looking at how did elite tight end perform based on 2024 and trying to apply it to 2025, I don't think that we're going to draw very strong conclusions from that. So let's start there. So what does elite tight end mean to me? This is just my personal take on 2025. I ultimately have 3 elite tight ends. We'll get to the next tier of guys beyond these 3, like the Laportas, like the Hawkinsons, and all of that. We will touch on those guys as well. But there's a big 3. Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, of course, on the thumbnail, and George Kittle is as well in the group of elite tight ends. How I like to think about elite tight end is I feel wildly confident, comfortable only drafting 2 of that position when I draft that player, right? I think about, the golden rule, if you will, of best ball, where if I draft really high quality and spend a bunch of draft capital at that position, I don't want to draft a lot of quantity. And so a lot of quantity is really more than 2 at the tight end position. There's nothing wrong with drafting 3 tight ends, but drafting 3 tight ends when I've spent a second or a third round pick or a 4th round pick on that position is not what I really want to do. So do I feel personally, based on my perception of that player and the draft market and everything, feel exceptionally confident only drafting 2 of that position when I draft that guy? There's really only those 3 guys. I'm going to personally only draft 2 tight ends, even when I take a Sam Laporta or, a TJ Hawkinson or something like that, but they don't leap into this elite tier where I almost don't care who my second tight end is when I have Trey McBride, because we bet the farm on Trey McBride in the 2nd or the 3rd round. We bet the farm on Brock Bowers in the 2nd or the 3rd round. I feel that's how I feel about those players. And those 3 are in a significantly different tier. As good as Sam Laporta is at football, as good as TJ Hawkinson is, they are in a significantly different tier than those guys, than TJ Hawkinson, than Sam Laporta, than Evan Ingram, than Travis Kelce, right? So we start there. There's 3. It's 3 guys. And this year, while we can't look at like historical years in terms of thinking about the elite tight end strategy, is, well, frankly, last year, all 3 of these guys who are now our elites were not priced like the elite tight ends. We had a bunch of tight ends going ahead of Trey McBride last year. Brock Bowers went after pick 100 because we were scared about rookie tight ends, and he looked really small standing next to Rob Gronkowski in a picture over the summer. George Kittle, he gets hurt and the 49ers don't pass enough. And, well, he's really boom bust, right, was George Kittle. And then guess what? Not so boom bust anymore. Those 3 guys are, and George Kittle still is, in their primes or entering their primes of real life football. They are arguably the number 1 option, if not assuredly the number 1 option in their passing offense, and just frankly, superstar real life football players. So we get these high floor, high ceiling combination. You're getting essentially a wide receiver 1 with spike level wide receiver 1 weekly upside and a reasonable enough floor at the tight end position that is super low scoring, that beyond those guys, there isn't really much that we can feel that confident in. And so the power of their both floor and then in the playoffs, a nuclear level ceiling that these other tight ends just simply don't have. And we're going to take a look at a couple of data points that'll talk about what does that mean? Because ultimately, what we really care about in this silly little game of best ball is upside and is ceiling. The floor is absolutely nice with these tight ends, but if we go look at some stats here, which of course this is also a part of Spike Week, we do some custom stats. Some of this is not custom, right? Points added. Obviously, we just have things like points per game if you want to just see points per game, right? But in a quick little kind of player stats table, you can compare all of these things, right? ADP, and then I like to look at the ADP rank as well, like, so where amongst the position did the player go? And we see last year, just looking at underdog scoring, Sam Laporta was the tight end 1, Travis Kelce was the tight end 2 around pick 42. Trey McBride went at the 4 or 5 turn, is now going a little bit higher, but we'll get to that. We'll get to Trey McBride's price this year. Mark Andrews, Dalton Kincaid, Kyle Pitts went ahead of George Kittle last year. Dalton Kincaid ahead of George Kittle last year. Then we keep on scrolling, right? Evan Ingram, Jake Ferguson all go before Brock Bowers. So just right there off the jump, last year, quite different. We've now learned, or maybe we should have known ahead of time, what Brock Bowers, George Kittle, and Trey McBride bring at the tight end position. And we were just wrong. The market was wildly wrong last year about the tight end position. So then we developed a spike score, which is a way to put a number to how valuable is this guy really from a best ball perspective. Meaning you do need to score points, right? A floor is not bad in best ball, but then when you're having good games, when over the course of, now this is a total season stat, over the course of the whole season, when you're spiking, how do you score relative to your peers? And what we see at this position is last year, those three tight ends, George Kittle, Brock Bowers, and Trey McBride, and we'll get to Jamo in a minute. Those three lapped the field in this spike score metric. George Kittle was at a near 12. It's just like there's a scale. It goes up. The quarterback score the most because they have the highest, spikiest total points. Anyway, Kittle, Bowers, Trey McBride in this metric, and then Jamo was quite awesome. But these three guys were at the top, and next, after the one outlier late round tight end in Jonnu Smith, was David Njoku at about half the score of those guys. They were essentially doubling up the field on how much were they spiking and how much were those big games that they had, like hitting your lineup and mattering, right? We can look at some little bit more basic stats from a points per game perspective. This is half PPR underdog scoring. George Kittle, 13 points per game. Brock Bowers, 12 points per game. Trey McBride, 12 points per game. David Njoku, about 10.5. And then Jonnu Smith, about 10.5. So that's an interesting part of the spike score here is Jonnu is having some more down games, had over the course of the whole season. It felt like every week he was catching like 7 balls at a certain time, but he actually averaged fewer points per game than David Njoku did. Njoku missed time, and thus, his points per game are a little bit higher than like his overall spike score. He added, as you see under total points added, he added fewer points than Jonnu Smith. But again, let's look at total points, right? Every single one of these metrics, these superstars at the top, George Kittle, just dominating. Brock Bowers, dominating. Trey McBride, adding a total of almost 72 points, whereas Jonnu Smith, even as great as he was, added 36 points in total over the course of the season, above the average at that position, right? How many points were they gaining on the average score, the average starting lineup score at that position? They're just absolutely dominating the position. So it's from a points per game added perspective, same thing. These guys are just dominating the position. If we want to look at it in individual weeks, how important were those big tight ends? And then Jonnu Smith, which thankfully I'm not sure we have to talk too much about since he was traded away from the Miami Dolphins, but like absolutely nuclear week. So multiple standard deviations. This is what a nuclear week would be, right? A spike week is you had a huge game, right? About a standard deviation above what the average point scoring is. It matters. You're adding a bunch of points. Nuclear weeks, multiple standard deviations above what the average score for your position is happening in that week. George Kittle did it 3 times. Brock Bowers did it 3 times. Trey McBride did it twice, despite never scoring any touchdowns, right? Brock Bowers had, I believe, 5 touchdowns. Trey McBride basically never scored a touchdown. And these guys were still providing the highest number of huge games. Look at George Kittle, 9 spike weeks. Trey McBride, 8 spike weeks. 50 to 60% of the time, these tight ends were having those big games. Bowers was down a little bit lower. At 35% of the time, he was having a spike week. But that was with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. Now we have Geno Smith. So heading into this season, I see no reason, given Tyler Warren and Colson Loveland are fine rookie tight ends, I see no reason that anything has changed at the top of this position and the power of these three players specifically, especially now that Jonnu, right, the guy who popped last year from a late perspective was Jonnu Smith. He's kind of been wiped away from us. We don't have Jonnu catching a bunch of checkdowns in this gimmick Miami Dolphins offense that can't throw the ball downfield. A little bit of hyperbole, but you get the point. Since he's now a Pittsburgh Steeler, those three tight ends have so much power in best ball tournaments that it may even feel at times uncomfortable to be clicking a tight end in the second round or the third round or the fourth round, right? George Kittle was going, after Kyle Pitts last year. Am I really going to take him at the 3-4 turn now? And the answer is yes. Yes, I'm going to draft George Kittle. I'm going to draft Trey McBride, and I'm going to draft Brock Bowers because the power of those three players in fantasy is a huge edge over the field. You can still also, the beautiful thing about elite tight end is you can get one of those guys, get this amazing upside, this floor that's nice, right? 60% of the time, George Kittle's having a spike week. He only had 3 duds all season. Right? Three total dud games from George Kittle and Trey McBride. So even during the regular season, you're just using that guy's score almost every single week. And you say, okay, well, he's not having a spike week every single game. I'm still going to draft another tight end and I can go hunting for this year's Jonnu Smith. If you had a George Kittle, Jonnu Smith team last year, or any combination of Jonnu Smith plus those guys, you can get that with an elite tight end. And we want to draft like we're right with the elite tight end, and we want to try to go hunting for this year's Jonnu Smith alongside them and supercharge this team with 2 tight ends. Now I get to use multiple more. You want to draft 3 quarterbacks? Go for it, because you only took 2 tight ends here, and you banked on George Kittle plus whoever at the tight end position. The power of these guys is, I think, especially given what we're seeing in this crazy ADP environment of them falling a lot of the times, Brock Bowers and Trey McBride specifically currently falling in drafts. I think elite tight end might be the single most impactful thing you can do from an upside perspective in best ball drafts this year. We have not seen a class like those 3, McBride, Bowers, and Kittle, since best ball has been around. Like, we had prime Travis Kelce, we had the end of the prime of Travis Kelce, I guess I would say. And we've never really backfilled the absolute superstar tight end. We tried to make Kyle Pitts a thing. We had the one big Mark Andrews season. We have never backfilled the young superstars in their prime as the focal points of their passing games. And then George Kittle finally being put into a position where they rely upon him some more. They're probably going to continue to throw a little bit more this season. Those 3 guys just stand out head and shoulders above the rest. Silver says elite QBs separate more than elite tight end, though. No, I don't think that is true. Let's take a look. So we're talking about from a how much these guys spike over their competition. Like we talked about, 60% of the time George Kittle is spiking. On average, the position is spiking 10 to 30% of the time, right? A good tight end spike percentage is like Sam Laporta, right? He was the tight end 1 last year. He was fine. He had 5 spike weeks. And so 30% of the time, right? And Njoku was pretty good. And Njoku was pretty solid. Another guy who's a honorable mention at the tight end position last year. But if we look at quarterback, we can straight up go to points per game. If we just look at points per game, right? Lamar Jackson is the QB1 last year. Averages 25. Josh Allen averages 24. I mean, this is obviously only a very, very small sample, but even Jimmy Garoppolo was scoring 21, right? Jared Goff was scoring 20. There's a bunch of guys averaging in the 20s. From a spike week perspective, 47% for Lamar Jackson. So I'm still getting the same 10 to 30% down here, but I'm only getting, and I like the elite quarterbacks. I like the elite quarterbacks as well. I mean, Josh Allen's a nuclear week from Josh Allen will score a little bit more points, like a little bit higher raw points, right? Because quarterbacks just score more, but that doesn't mean they separate more from the field. From a points per game added perspective, there's a bunch of quarterbacks down here adding 2, 3, 4 points per game, and Josh Allen added 6.5, 6.6. So they're awesome. No one is denying the power of the elite tight end, but the tight end or the power of the elite quarterback. But if we're comparing the two, the tight end position, like there's just not hardly any difference makers, and the bad ones, playing the quarterback position just inherently comes with like a certain amount of fantasy points because you're the one throwing the passes, you're the one touching the ball on every single snap. Even the teams who run the ball a ton still throw it more than they run it, right? You get some BS touchdowns that you probably didn't deserve. Just like every starting quarterback scores a certain amount of points, that is not the case for tight end. There's just very, very few tight ends that even do anything for fantasy. So the separation factor, it's not that the elite quarterbacks aren't awesome. They are, and I like them too. We'll definitely be talking about them plenty over the course of the summer. I'm drafting them. But if I'm talking about pure separation from their opponents, points added, the gap in the elite tight ends down to the mediocre tight ends, right? The Josh Allen down to the QB1s, right? The 10th quarterback, the gap from Josh Allen to the 10th quarterback and the gap from George Kittle to the 10th tight end is far greater on the Kittle side. Let's see. Double back on the chat. Sorry, we talked for about 20 minutes there. I love me some tight ends, and I love me some nerdy little data. Let's see. DQ says on UD, I don't have McBride and Bowers because Kittle was going in the 5th. I really don't have any problem with that. The George Kittle price on Underdog does make it a little bit tricky sometimes, or it did make it tricky sometimes. To say every time, I always noticed in my drafts, this happens. So if Bowers falls to 22 or whatever, I'm like, this is awesome. Got a great Brock Bowers price. In that same draft, McBride falls back to me in the 3rd round, or Kittle falls back to me, like you said, in the 5th or something like that. Now that the Kittle thing isn't happening so much anymore, but the best ball gods have screwed with us, I think, to start this summer with the elite tight ends, where every time you get a great price on one, you're just in a room that nobody in the room wants any of those elite tight ends, and you could have got all of them at good prices. So I got no problem. I love George Kittle. I have George Kittle ranked well ahead of ADP, but I have all 3 of these guys ranked well ahead of ADP. I do think McBride and Bowers on DraftKings make sense to be a little bit higher there with the full PPR. Naturally being a little bit more concerned about their touchdown scoring. I get it. D. Ross just woke up to a slow and grabbed Bowers at the 212 on a chase team. It's apparently becoming a thing that your Bowers is falling to the 2-3 turn. I don't get it. I don't know. I see absolutely nothing as to why these elite tight ends should be falling. I think if anything, they should be rising, but the market does not agree with me. And that's another huge feather in their cap for you're going to be able to continue to get these guys at cheaper prices. And we just talked about how insanely valuable they are in best ball. So yeah, I don't get it. Shout out Michael. Thank you. Says great podcast. And of course, GM, we appreciate you. No cap Mac, no better way to start a day than an in-depth discussion of tight ends. 100%. I love, I always spell it out like on social media or whatever, because I think I didn't on the thumbnail, but I'm still at my inner child still giggles at typing out. We're going to talk about tight ends. It's very lame and cheesy and childish, but I am what I am. What's up, Al? Disbanded Brotherhood always cracks me up with the dot. For best ball says, why 2 when the 16th to 18th round, some of the tight ends are the best picks and basically free, or am I thinking of it wrong? Well, the best pick is dependent upon who's on your roster, not just who the best pick is in a vacuum. I won't argue that the late round tight ends are good, but then I can just take that guy, right? So if I have George Kittle, once I've invested an early pick at the tight end position, I'm probably a little bit behind my peers at running back, right? Or I don't have the elite quarterback that sorry, whoever brought it up. I apologize. Anyway, but I'm behind at probably wide receiver most often, but I could be behind at running back, or my quarterbacks are a little bit weaker. So if I'm weaker at another position and I'm strong at tight end, Theo Johnson might on average, outscore the late round wide receivers, since they're kind of dart throws back there, right? But I have bet my team on George Kittle, and in this example, I've already drafted a second tight end. I took George Kittle and Jake Ferguson on a team. Let's just use that. If those two are failing and Theo Johnson is hitting my lineup, I'm in a little bit of trouble. Theo Johnson is not providing the level of spikes. Technically, a tight end can hit the flex. I don't want to be betting on a team where tight ends are hitting my flex with any regularity. I definitely don't want to be betting on a team where tight ends are hitting my flex in the fantasy playoffs, right? We're going to draft a best ball mania team. In the playoffs, you got to get first out of 16 teams. And then in the week 17 final, you got to get first out of 500 and something teams. If Theo Johnson is hitting my flex, like I'm not winning that week. There's just the points don't. That math doesn't math on that part of it. So I've built this team that says I've got this foundational rock of Kittle, Bowers, or McBride, and now I also have another guy. I need running back help. I need wide receiver help. Right? I got to fill 3 wide receiver spots, 2 running backs plus a flex. That's 6 spots, and I know that the big like breakout type stuff comes. And the flex scoring, the powerful flex scoring, comes from running back and wide receiver. So once I have, committed to this elite tight end thing, and if you do think that those late round picks at tight end are better, then pass on the Jake Fergusons, pass on the Dallas Goederts, pass on the Isaiah Likeleys and the Dalton Kincaids and the whatever, Brenton Strange, pass on those guys and wait, because you don't want to be diving right. That's around the pick 150. Who goes at pick 150? One of my favorite running backs to draft, Tyler Allgeier, right? So just take Tyler Allgeier there and wait and take Theo Johnson at the end of drafts, or whatever you like, Chig Okonkwo or Cade Otton or whoever, Jatavian Sanders, Harold Fannin, right? Draft one of those guys later. Plan ahead. If you believe that, plan ahead for that. Because that even though the tight ends will score more points, it's not making your team, and specifically the ceiling of your team in the best ball playoffs, certainly not tangibly better, but I would argue it's hurting it, right? I'm not diving into that question, Mac. Cole Kmet has more variance than a crypto bro on a Tuesday. For best ball IMO, it's you're trying to advance or trying to win a big tournament. The two Johnson tight ends might help you advance, but are probably not helping you win the tournament. If Brashard Smith or Jarquez Hunter or Taj Brooks or Sean Tucker or whatever, right? Everybody, Jordan James, Kyle Monungai, whatever. Everybody has Keaton Mitchell. Everybody has their own later round like flavors. We can debate those till the cows come home. I have mine. You guys have yours. But once I get there, like, if Kyron Williams misses time, would you rather have third tight end Theo Johnson or Jarquez Hunter on that team when you already have George Kittle or Trey McBride? Right? I need to swing at the positions where I need the points the most, as opposed to just drafting the guy who's gonna score the most points on average. Because on average is not what wins best ball tournaments. Chaos and outcomes we can't see coming. Individual games we can't see coming from players like Amari Cooper going for 50 and in week 16 and then not playing in week 17. We want to play for these crazy outcomes. So we've built our team around that superstar tight end. Accept the fact that you've built it around that tight end, and you probably need something crazy at one of the other positions. Yep, I like that it gives me an extra roster spot. Adam says, is Jonnu impacted by his ADP, or is that accounted for in this metric? In Spike Scored, there is no ADP component. It is just totally. So Jonnu was awesome. last year. So we're talking a lot about the elite tight ends. The Jonnu point to me is not that elite tight ends are the only possible avenue to scoring points, right? David Njoku was good when he played, and Jonnu Smith was awesome all season. He still wasn't as good as the elites. So even though we got this huge breakout, big time season from Jonnu Smith, he still wasn't as good as the elite guys. He did a damn good job of getting close. He still wasn't as good. But then you see there's like one or maybe two of those guys that have good seasons. And luckily for us here, we did. Jonnu Smith was my highest owned tight end after Brock Bowers. But it's really difficult to pinpoint those, and it's not a lock that we're going to get another Jonnu Smith. We have the 3 bankable elite tight ends, and then you see after that it's very difficult to find a true difference maker. You might get 1, you might get 2 after those big 3 superstars. Let's see. The Rolling Stone effect. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up on the chats here. Silver says, "What's your thoughts on opportunity costs? Hard to pass up on Jonathan Taylor and Tyreek for Bowers. Lamar goes around T-Mac." Yeah, this is a totally fair part of the equation, right? If you pass on a superstar at another position to get this tight end, how much does that matter? Well, it matters a lot. But the inverse can be said as well. You pass on Tyreek Hill, or you pass on Brock Bowers to get Tyreek Hill. You pass on what we just saw the George Kittle season from last year. Well, you mentioned Lamar. You pass on the Lamar season. There's going to be guys that pop up. Now, you may need those hits. Another reason as to why to not swing, as to why to swing as opposed to taking the points at tight end or at quarterback when you draft the elite is because you gave up Jonathan Taylor to get Brock Bowers. You gave up T-Mac to get Lamar or Josh Allen, right? You gave up Mike Evans. You gave up whoever. Pick the guy that you like there. You gave up a star. So you need to use that guy. You need to use that, right? You spent a bunch of money on Lamar Jackson or Brock Bowers. You need to use Brock Bowers, right? Use him to all of his power because you've assumed once you've selected this guy, he now is going to have a good season, right? You're going to look back in this team. How did it go right? Well, probably because Brock Bowers is a superstar. And so I don't want to keep drafting tight ends just because they're going to most likely outscore the wide receiver or whatever, because I passed on Tyreek to get him. Now I need to help make up points on the Tyreek teams and find wide receivers because I want to have a superstar lineup by the time I get to week 17, not just like scoring okay, right? I want to have a bunch of dudes across my 18-man roster that are mega upside shots, we get to week 17 and I'm scoring, so many, I'm scoring so many points, but I have a bunch of different guys who now, if you play DFS at all, they went from, I drafted him in the 17th round. So he's a $4,000 player on DraftKings or $3,000 player on DraftKings. But by the time we got to week 17, right, he's better than we thought. Maybe the offense is better. Somebody else got hurt on his team. Now he went from a $3,000 player at the draft to a $7,000 player. You're like, oh my God, this guy's really valuable. Chase Brown, Kyron Williams a couple years ago, Tank Dell, Puka Nacua. A lot of rookies this happens to, right? Garrett Wilson, Justin Jefferson, whoever. We want to, this happened to Brock Bowers last year. By the end of the season, Brock Bowers and Trey McBride and George Kittle are the most expensive tight ends. But in week 1 in DFS, they were not the most expensive tight ends, right? I want to plan around the fact that my guys who I spent a bunch of money on continue to be worth a bunch of money. And then I need to find the guys that make up for it. So the opportunity cost is a very real thing, but it goes in the opposite direction as well. If every time you take Tyreek, you passed up on the chance to take a legendary tight end who's clearly separating from his opponents. I find it easier to take a higher volume approach to the running back or wide receiver position. And that's why I love the elite tight ends. Michael, thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. In the Scott Fishbowl, shout out to the Scott Fishbowl folks. Slow drafting, and he has Bowers and Laporta, and would like to add 2 tight ends, notably tight end premium in the Scott Fishbowl. Looking at Tucker Kraft, David Njoku, both Fergusons, Ertz, and Mason Taylor. Rank them 1 to 6. Yeah, 3.5 points tight end premium. Absolutely insane. And you can start a bunch of tight ends. If you haven't seen the Scott Fishbowl, shout out to Scott. Incredible charity work and everything that goes on with Scott Fishbowl, and the biggest fantasy contest in the world, ultimately. Let's see. Rank 1 to 6, Tucker Kraft, David Njoku, both Fergusons, Ertz, and Mason Taylor. Okay. David Njoku, Tucker Kraft, Jake Ferguson. Ooh. Oh, God. Zach Ertz, Terrence Ferguson, Mason Taylor last. So I'm going to go Njoku, Kraft, Jake Ferguson, Zach Ertz, Terrence Ferguson, and then Mason Taylor. Just not really on Mason Taylor. I don't love Terrence Ferguson, but I could see a scenario in which he does take over for Tyler Higbee, and then I'm getting the Rams starting tight end on a fun and condensed offense. I think just has a little bit more value, and I'm not a big Mason Taylor prospect guy. He really didn't do much in college other than be on the field. Let's see. John says an elite tight end is somehow available in round 18 this year. Theo Johnson, haven't taken the tight end ahead of ADP yet because Theo's free. I like Theo. Fine. I got absolutely no problem with Theo. Let me load up Underdog here. I've been talking for 37 minutes and I have not hopped into a draft yet. We're going to do 20 seconds so we can see if we can squeeze two in here. Looks like we need 10. So I need 10 of you sickos out there to come hop in this Ball Mania draft. And so I can draft some elite tight ends. Theo's hitting your lineup anyway. He is goated. John says, like I said, I do like Theo. I got no problem with that. Am I not right in the head since I can't stop clicking Pitts at his current ADP, says Charles. How do I say this politely? I can't confirm or deny whether you're right in the head. I think that's a personal issue. That you have to seek a medical professional for that. But I will tell you that continuing to click Kyle Pitts it's not going to help you get right in the head. If that makes any sense, you're not going to feel better continuing to click him. That's how I'll say it. Lundar says, I had done some analysis on QB's touchdown to interception ratio inside the 10, and Kyler was repeatedly among the worst. Could the McBride regression we expect be a little overbaked? Great question. It's possible. It's definitely possible. I think that the bar to clear from a regression perspective, however bad Kyler is in the red zone because he can't see over the offensive lineman, however bad he is, what happened with Trey McBride last year, what has happened in the pros and frankly at Colorado State is still just like a crime against humanity. It doesn't make any sense. Kyler could be amongst the worst at this, and Trey McBride still should regress. You could argue using this that like Trey McBride is drawing really, really thin to the absolute mega touchdown ceiling games, seasons that some other people would have, that a George Kittle might be able to do, certainly that a Jamar Chase or what have you. I think that would be a fair assessment, but I think ultimately Trey McBride is so good that it doesn't matter too much, but I think you could knock him down based on that logic, a small tier. And I have Bowers ahead of Trey McBride, though I do have Trey McBride ahead of George Kittle. It's a totally fair thing to say. Kyler Murray is a very frustrating quarterback to deal with when he's supposed to be really, really good, and he was the first overall pick, and we kind of thought he was going to take a leap at any one of these seasons, and Kyler just kind of continues to just Kyler it up out there, right? Just always leaving you wanting more. John, really on the Theo thing here. We need just 2 more in a Best Ball Mania 22nd for anybody out there. Bruce says, I drafted Janu on my main event team and dropped him after week 4. Oof. Painful. Oh, looks like we got the 101 here. Beautiful. Jason, do good tight end seasons correlate with dumpster fire team situations? I'm not sure that I would say that's to the Theo Johnson point, though. I think one would say that the Cleveland Browns were a dumpster fire last year, and David Njoku was having a pretty good season. So I think good tight end seasons correlate with good tight ends. That's a hot take. I know we're spitting hot takes on a Wednesday morning. The reason tight ends have really big games and really big seasons is because they're really good at football. I think we often worry too much about team situation. If you're really, really good, you're going to score fantasy points. We see it every single season. And then we continue to not overvalue. It's not the team situation doesn't matter. I'm taking Jamar Chase, by the way, at the 101. It's not the team situation doesn't matter. Of course it matters. But like we go in every summer and I think probably do overvalue it a little too much. Last year, people would say you can't draft Malik Neighbors because the Giants are not going to be good. Now Malik Neighbors goes as a top 8 pick or whatever in fantasy drafts. You know why? Because Malik Neighbors is awesome. I'm not saying Theo Johnson is that at all, but I'm saying like drafting worse players only because they're on better teams, including at tight end. Like if Harold Fannin is awesome, I just don't care. I don't care about the Browns. I don't care about David Njoku. I don't care about anything. If Harold Fannin is awesome, you want awesome football players on your team. Tight end position, probably even the position that's more important because there's just not that many awesome tight ends in the NFL. I'm not saying Theo Johnson's that. I'm not saying the Giants won't be a total disaster. But like Trey McBride was on the Cardinals. They were not that good. Certainly not that good on offense last year, but he's that good. So he was the offense, right? Brock Bowers, the Raiders were terrible. George Kittle popped because the Niners were worse, right? And things crumbled. Debo got hurt. Ayuk got hurt. Things crumbled. CMC got hurt. So this whole idea that we have to only right, the Ravens and the Bills and the Eagles, like all the best offenses, the Chiefs, Kelsey, like really all the best offenses were not producing the best tight ends. The best tight ends produce the best tight end scoring. So if you have a belief, if you are like John and you believe Theo Johnson is going to be a star, go for it. Can you talk about benefits or drawbacks of stacking your onesies? I love stacking up the onesies. Kittle and Purdy is probably my favorite stack of 2025. I just love both of them individually. And stacking with the onesies, I think can be even more powerful. This is a little bit anecdotal. But those two positions are from a touchdown perspective, right? It's not that like touchdowns drive everything really on underdog, period. But at tight end, the easiest way to have a spike week at tight end is to score a touchdown. The easiest way to have a nuclear week at tight end is to score multiple touchdowns. If my tight end is scoring multiple touchdowns in an individual game, which doesn't happen very often, but George Kittle guy's pretty good at scoring touchdowns. If my tight end is scoring multiple touchdowns and hopefully catching some balls, well, who is throwing it to him, right? That guy's also going to probably be having at least a decent game if he's throwing multiple touchdowns to his tight end. So you'd say, well, that counts for wide receivers and running backs and stuff too. But it matters more at tight end because the tight ends are scoring fewer points. So it's the easiest way to correlate, just like we would in any given stack. But when it hits, it kind of like levels up, right? The tight end is, so I'm banking the good quarterback game because I know I'm getting several touchdowns, and I'm banking gaining more points at the lower scoring position, right? Whether that quarterback is elite or not does not matter. It definitely doesn't matter because none of the elite quarterbacks have elite tight ends that we're drafting. But I really, really like correlating the two positions. Let's see if Juice. I don't know. Let's see if I knew it. I knew it that he was going to take Trey McBride. I have to pull up George Kittle to the 2-3 turn now because of you a-holes. But I'll do Tyreek here. Let's get a little funky. Jamar Chase, George Kittle, Tyreek Hill. While I'm thinking about that, let's go to I want to go over to Draft IQ and see in my BBM. There's no way I don't think that I have. Let's go to my draft board and punch in Jamo Chase. I don't know what that Chase was. Do I have Kittle? So I have in Best Ball Mania I have 6 Jamar Chase teams, and I do not have George Kittle on any of them. Now let's see my opponents. Go to my opponent draft board. So 42, right? I've done 42 BBMs on those Jamar teams. If I punch in, these are all of my opponents, of course. So this is not the entire field of BBM, of course. It is just my opponents. So it's only the 42 team or the 36 Jamar Chase teams here. You see 36 Jamar Chase teams. So they do have Kittle. So that was maybe not the wisest thing that I've done. But now let's look at the Kittle teams really quick. Let's see how many have Tyreek. A bunch, 3 of them have Tyreek. So this start was not great, but now we'll see at the next turn, at the 4 or 5 turn, what we can do there. But naturally, the goal was to get Trey McBride there at the 1-2 turn, and that didn't work. Probably shouldn't have pulled up George Kittle, but he wasn't going to come back. And we're doing an elite tight end stream. Come on, we gotta draft a fucking elite tight end if we're doing an elite tight end show. Silver says Kittle at 24 is real dedication to the bit. Yeah, it's not a bit. It's just real dedication to the. If I'm going to do the show, the thumbnail says elite tight end. I rant for a half hour about how powerful the elite tight end is, and then I'm not going to take him just because some slappy took Trey McBride from me. Come on, either do the content or don't. I'm not going to do an entire show about elite tight ends and then not get one. And then spend 30 minutes spend a third of the show not talking about elite tight ends in an elite tight end video. Kyle Pitts, Max says, I believe the correct diagnosis is insanity. Clicking the same player year after year, expecting different results. It's funny. 100%. Scott Fishbowl is unbelievable, especially for being a thing you don't win money in. It's really crazy to see all the different people come together, and so much good gets done, which is nice to see. In a what can be a frustrating world where it's a never-ending pissing contest, and everybody's trying to dunk on other people, and right? Oh, haha, you like Kyle Pitts? Oh, haha, you love whatever. Pick a player, right? You like Breece Hall? What a donkey. Don't you know that he likes to go out to the clubs, right? Like, people love dunking on other people's shit. It's nice to see something where people are, having a little fun, being a little positive, and doing some good out there. You guys have naturally left me a bunch of just dog shit here at the turn, though I do love George Pickens. Oh, my draft. I just noticed that my draft hacker is not loading. I'm gonna do Cortland Sutton actually. Let me go to yeah, it's working here. It's just not working on the I might need I think oh, god damn it. I forgot to update. I'm sitting here telling everybody to update earlier, and I was the one who did not update. Where the hell did this BBM team go? All right, there we go. Please rank your elite tight end by tiers, and where's the cutoff for non-elite? We did talk a little bit about this at the top. I only have 3 elite tight ends this year, so I think those are the only 3 that have gone off the board. Yeah, I can share. How many picks away are we? 13. Yeah, I can share really quick. I can just go to the Spike Week rankings again. If you have a premium subscription, we have go to rankings, and you go to this little rankings hub here, which I particularly enjoy because it has a change log over here. So every time I make a change to the rankings, you can see, where that player was before, what the new rank is, and the net change. You can obviously go find the NFL, NBA, whatever, all the different sites, right? Eliminator, Marathon, Superflex, whatever. It's all over here. But if I go to the tight end position, you will see I have Brock Bowers 13th overall, Trey McBride 19th overall, George Kittle 39th overall. So a little bit of a reach from my ranking on George Kittle at 24 overall, but nonetheless. So I would call it a mini tier. Bowers and McBride to me are in the same tier. Kittle is still an elite tight end, but it's just a slight peg down from those guys. And then it's a huge fall down to Sam Laporta, and then another big fall down to TJ Hawkinson, Evan Ingram, Travis Kelce. I don't particularly like those guys. I do like David Njoku a little bit here. Let me scroll. I do like David Njoku a little bit here. But amongst the elites, that's kind of how I would break it down from a tier perspective. Yeah, notably the great elite tight end debate of 2024 was a waste of everyone's time, and George Kittle is, spoiler alert, elite, as is Brock Bowers, as is Trey McBride. Kittle is just annually underappreciated in fantasy circles, and I think we should continue to take advantage of that. Yeah, there was a month of Piatig says there's a month of teams, a month worth of teams who have Kittle at the 4 or 5 turn for sure. We are back on the clock, and I should probably be paying attention. Oh God, Jacoby Myers. No, we're gonna do Caleb here. So when I go to the interesting, okay, I figured out the. Now let's do Pearsall then. Set up the Niner stack with Kittle. We do Caleb Johnson to kick off a 0 running back room, and then Ricky Pearsall, because of course we have George Kittle. But yeah, so this is like certainly a concern that people got Kittle at a cheaper price, but like they're not going to have the same combination of players that I have, and like it's a 1v1, right? I have Kittle plus George Pickens, and they have Kittle plus who is at the 2-3 turn, Garrett Wilson. I'm not competing against them in my room, and I may never compete against them at all. Can George Pickens or Cortland Sutton not outscore Garrett Wilson or Terry McLaurin or Josh Jacobs, or whatever? I understand, it always feels bad to take a guy at a price where other people got a better price than you. I just think it matters far less. Like, just seriously, think like, A, it's really only going to matter in the fantasy playoffs. B, I have to run into those teams. C, I have a bunch of other guys that are going to be different. And then D, even if we drafted all of the exact identical players, and I swapped in George Pickens and they got Garrett Wilson, can George Pickens not just outscore Garrett Wilson in 1 week? Like, of course he can. The problem starts to become when you take a whole ton of guys who are paired together and you got the worst of all of them. You can definitely run into some issues. I don't want to be making a habit of doing a bunch of things like this. But I also don't think it matters as much as we say. Like, the ADP value stuff and the closing line value stuff is impactful at a macro overall level. Across your entire portfolio, it is better to be on the right side of the ADP value and the closing line value thing than it is to not. In one individual instance, right, applying the macro to the micro doesn't always work in that one individual instance. And then we should be specific about what the macro means in that instance, right? If it just means a 1v1 of two like close enough players, I just don't see why it matters all that much. But overall, right, over my whole portfolio, I do want to get 80, just like everybody. I want to get ADP value. I want to get unique combos from ADP value. I want to have 4 or 5 turn George Kittle teams. I have 4 or 5 turn George Kittle's teams. But I don't want to like constantly be only focused on the macro and the median projection type stuff. So I want to have my cake and eat it too, if that makes any sense. Corey says you really only have to sweat the CLV stuff in total points. That is definitely it's not like only sweating it. Yeah, I would say you only sweat it in those because you're competing against all of those teams, right? I'm not competing against any teams in Best Ball Mania for 14 weeks. I'm not competing against any team that has George Kittle. I'm the only George Kittle team. Then, all right, let's say George Kittle even has a high advance rate. We get to the playoffs and he actually has a pretty hefty advance rate. Okay. How many teams am I going to run into there? It's just not a huge deal. Hold on. We're going to put Purdy in the queue. I don't think I have a Purdy Knicks team. Would have been sweet to take Kyler here. Nonetheless, we're not going to. Yeah, let's do Purdy and Knicks. I don't believe I have a Purdy Knicks team yet in Best Ball Mania. Let's take a look, actually. Go back to Draft IQ here from the rankings. Rick says Erik sacrificed 15 picks of ADP for the content. Man of the people. That is for sure. I don't know about man of the people, but what did I say? Purdy. Let's just go ahead and search for Knicks. All right, so I have 6 Purdy teams. None of them have Knicks. None of them have Sutton. Only 2 of them have Kittle. A bunch of them have Pearsall, though. I got a bunch of Pearsall you see over here. Just trying to take a peek at. A lot of them had Devontae. So I don't mind this. Getting Tyreek and Cortland Sutton and Bo Nix onto this team. Don't have Caleb Johnson yet on a Brock Purdy team. So I'm cool with this. Another thing that can like mitigate some of the ADP value stuff that we're talking about is precisely that. Get back over to the board. Charles says I would be more worried for the teams that were able to get CMC in the second and Tyreek Hill in the third. I got no pushback on that one. Still only matters if they hit. The crazy thing about this game is that you definitely want to have, the best teams. You definitely want to have the best closing line value as much as you can. You want to have, right? You want to look back and we get to week 1, we get to Thursday Night Football, we're ready for the games, and you got a bunch of guys who rose. You got a bunch of guys who got a camp hype over the summer. You got a bunch, you got all this. And then we look back and you're like, Drew Lock scored 35 fantasy points in week 17, and the 101 Christian McCaffrey basically never played all year, and Aaron Rodgers was horrible, and Breece Hall was a first-round pick and sucked, and the Dolphins completely fell on their face aside from Jamo. It's like we look back, and as great as all this stuff is, like most of the stuff we end up talking about over the summer is just wrong. And also just even when we're right, it may not matter. It's the chaos of this game is the best. Silver says, guy in the 8 hole is drunk. Is that you? Hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, chaos is a CMC lad. CMC lad, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Hurts, Travis Hunter, Jerry Jeudy, Josh Down. Oh, no. What's wrong with this team? Unstacked Hurts, I guess. Which is okay. Just a little hero CMC team. Let me refresh this so I can get the draft hacker back up here and rolling so I can see my exposures. I feel like I'm flying blind. All right, perfect. I have 7% Charbonnet, no Charbs on basically any of these teams as well. Oh, Tyjae. Look, this is beautiful. I love it when a plan comes together. All right, we made 11 picks. We controversially pulled up George Kittle a little bit ahead of ADP, but I'm pretty comfortable with this team. And, aside from that, but that's okay. Jamar Chase at the 101, George Kittle, Tyreek Hill, George Pickens, the Georges, the George Bros, Cortland Sutton, Caleb Johnson to kick off my running back room, and Ricky Pearsall to add to the 49ers stack there. Closed the 49ers stack with Brock Purdy, so we got Purdy, Kittle, Pearsall, and then took Bo Nix, of course, stacked with Cortland Sutton. I'm really trying to get a little bit more Broncos. It's so difficult to force yourself to click Nix and really a lot of the Broncos, but their offense just looks every day. It looks more and more appealing to me. I do take the running backs a lot more. I have a bunch of Harvey, and I'm trying to get a bunch of J.K. Dobbins, but I'm trying to force myself to take a little bit more Broncos. And then Zach Charbonnet and Tyjae Spears, right, to kind of take 2 best available running backs there, and in a 0 running back room. They're kind of a nice little combination. Tyjae comes with contingent value plus a little bit of standalone value. Charbonnet is probably more so contingent value, but we'll see what's up with the Seattle backfield this year. I like this. Chris says people who pick unstacked Burrow should be banned in all contests. My favorite is, and I'm sorry if you've done this, I apologize ahead of time, but we also had this conversation yesterday in a different Discord where we were talking about, and we've talked about this a lot, but like if you talk shit about a team that I draft or a pick that I draft or something, that I like or whatever, it's cool. Like, that's what we do. That's what that's friendship. That's love. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat shit for you. If you're my friend, we're going to be honest, and I'm going to give you a hard time, just like you should give me a hard time. And so the Burrow thing, if I had $1 for every time Burrow goes at pick 62, right? If Burrow is available at pick 70 and people are just like, I think I got to take it. You're like, you don't have Chase or Higgins. They're like, but he fell past ADP. I'm like, 8 pick, like a lot of other people got him at this price. Like a lot. Like ADP, average draft position, meaning for his average to be 62, he has to frequently go after 62. So unless you're getting him at 80, like you're not getting a noticeably different like price. But the fact that the pick number that you got him at is after what the ADP says, it's like people just get the Dave Chappelle itchy neck, like it cannot help it. And then they'll be like, look, I couldn't help but take the ADP value on Joe Burrow. And it's like, but if you don't have like great, you're gonna go seek out Mike Gesicki. And I like Mike Gesicki, but like you're gonna go seek out the Mike Gesicki stack with Joe Burrow. And like, what did you really gain? What did you really gain? The team makes less sense than a different quarterback, like stacked up appropriately than with Joe Burrow. Like you're winning best ball mania on a Joe Burrow team without Jamar Chase and T. Higgins just because you got him 8 picks after ADP. Like, what are we doing here? And Trey Benson, little coral. This, like I said, I love it when a plan comes together. I am going to do what we talked about before, though. Get my guy Tyler Allgeier onto this team. We talked about planning ahead. I don't know if I love Theo as much as our guy John in the chat did earlier, but planning ahead, knowing that later on they're going to be tight ends, frankly, like Mike Gesicki, who I like, and using it to beef back up my running back room because I drafted George Kittle so early over, like what running back did I take George Kittle over? So not JT, but Josh Jacobs or Chase Brown. I could have had one of those guys. And Hampton went before he got back to me, right? But I could have had Chuba or something like that. Now use it, right? Use that elite tight end that I have. Use the fact that I know later on in the draft, there's a bunch of tight ends later. They may not be awesome. They may be Theo Johnson. They may be Jatavian Sanders. They may be whatever. Cade Otton. But I have banked an elite tight end. He's going to score a bunch of points, right? We've manifested it. I'm drafting this team as if George Kittle is a smash, clearly, given the price I paid for him. The Niners stack is going to be awesome. Kittle's going to be a superstar. And I have wide receiver firepower still, right? I made up ground at wide receiver. I have Chase, Tyreek, Pickens, and Sutton, and Pearsall. So like I'm good at wide receiver. I'm clearly good at tight end. Now let's use it. Go beef back up the running back room. I'm done at quarterback. I have my 2 quarterbacks that I really like. I built my team around the 49ers and the Broncos. If the 49ers and the Broncos fail, either over the course of the whole season or in any one individual week, if they both fail, that's like my whole team has failed, right? So like that's another argument to the 3 quarterback thing. That like 3 quarterback sure probably adds points generally. Overall, it's a macro level thing, but in the micro, on this team, if Brock Purdy and Bo Nix and the Niners, and that's 40% of my team, 30 to 40% of my team has failed. I'm not making that up with Daniel Jones, my Tyler Shuck, Jawan Johnson stack or whatever. Like it's not winning me Best Ball Mania because most of my team has already failed. Yeah, scroll back a little bit. Copy, paste dates says, isn't George Kittle at the 2-3 turn a much worse version? I don't know. It's maybe 15 minutes ago, something like that. I dove into that. Why does UD just randomly change their UI? I just wish that they would let people know. I know that the tool stuff is always a little controversial. I'm also about to do something here, by the way, for the folks. Am I allowed to reach and get Will Shipley? Shout out to me. Let's see. Let's close out running back. Rico Dowdle. Get a little 2772 action going here. One of my favorite, if not probably my favorite. 27720 running back team hits like crack when you're running back, when you are a 0 RB bro. But yes, and as Adam says, the real moral of the story, even though I did explain the George Kittle price thing, come on, what is the point? I'm not making another thumbnail. I'm not changing the description of the video or anything like that. This is what we're doing. Elite tight end. What kind of disingenuous ass shit would it be to ramble about elite tight end for 30 minutes, talk about how valuable they are, then get on the clock and say, no, I don't want to take it because somebody else, because I have to take Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton has to outscore Garrett Wilson. Oh, right. The LeBron gif. Oh no, someone has Garrett Wilson and I have George Pickens. Oh. Yeah. Kittle does box you out of a 2 tight end with Theo or JT. You might need Juwan. Why does he box me out of why does Kittle box me out of a 2 tight end with Theo or I assume JT being Jatavian Sanders? I don't think he boxes me out of those. Dial says, how about a situation where there's a sick drop in value, like a 3rd round wide receiver available late for, but then you eliminate yourself from stacking your QB? What do you mean by eliminate yourself from stacking your QB? Like, you would, let me think about it. I can't think of a good example, but like if it eliminated you from taking, a 3rd round wide receiver is available in late 4, and you're going to do the Hurts Devontae thing or whatever. I'm just making that up. I think, do you take the ADP value and take unstacked Hurts? Do you, is that kind of what you're getting at? I'm not 100% sure. Oh, week 14 bye. I don't care about that. I don't care about overlapping buys at tight end. Take a 0 for that week. Who cares? Similar to like, if you can tell me, here's my favorite thing about at quarterback. If you want to get into the quarterback thing about double buys, I'm open. I'm open to talk about that. If you think about the double buys at tight end, we're talking about a late, right? So I'm talking about a late round tight end. If you can tell me a late round tight end right now that in week 14 is going to post a meaningful score, a late round so round 17 or 18 tight end that you can say with utmost confidence is going to score a big game, I'll take the dude in every draft right now, 100%. And then I may take less of the elite tight ends, or I'm definitely only going to take 2 tight ends on all of those teams. You just can't. If it's so easy to spot good games. So, while we're talking about most of, on macro level stuff or median projections and such, if we're talking about that, the average late round tight end is just like not scoring enough points for me to care. I want the best bets. If they happen to have the same overlapping buy, cool. It is what it is. Woof. Okay. He says all of that, and then I'm going to take Chig. I have Tyjae. So we're going to do Chig as my second tight end. And then let's do that. Let's do Ayomanor and add an additional little Titan stack onto this team. Don't have to have Cam Ward. If you have listened to any of my videos, you will know I am a very heavy proponent of stacking without the quarterback or just correlating, secondary correlations is what I like to call them. Like, I can get the benefits of the Titans being better than expectation, even if I don't necessarily have Cam Ward on the team. I have 2 good quarterbacks. I bet on the Broncos and I bet on the 49ers. Now I can also make additional team level bets. If you only want to do 2, do 2 Titans. I think that's totally fine. Terrence says he likes Chig. I like Chig. I also like Chig. Joanna says take around a Gadsden for a rare late season rookie tight end breakout. I don't hate Gadsden. I prefer Fannin by a lot to Gadsden. So if I didn't take Chig there, it would have been kind of planning around Harold Fannin. But yeah, as Adam says, and Huhaim says, might worry about the overlapping by in total points. Yeah, if you're playing the marathon or you're playing on drafters and you want to worry about it there more, I think that's totally fine. But like I said, you got to get those. And I mean, shoot, 5.3. How many points per game did Juwan even average last year? Right? Like, on average, you're going to give up a couple of points. The guy's got to be even playing in that week. And then, all right, you gave up 4 points. Like I'm not going to overly be concerned with 4 points in one regular season week. I'm going to be more concerned about the best pick for me, in my opinion. And if the best pick doesn't overlap in buys, that's great, right? But if I think Theo Johnson or Jatavian Sanders is the best pick on a George Kittle team, I'll do it. Who cares? Oh God, Black Muddy says thoughts on Waller. I don't like him, but we definitely did the Waller thing. Was that last Wednesday? I think last Wednesday's show we did the Darren Waller thing. So I will redirect you to that. It got a little spicy. I got a little fired up with the Darren Waller conversation. My personal take is I'm always willing to adjust. If we go through camp and Darren Waller's looking awesome and they're telling us he's the man and he looks like prime Darren Waller, I will happily adjust. I don't want to be taking the Dolphins are really fragile. No pun intended. And Waller is certainly fragile himself. But like this guy was retired, didn't really like playing football anymore. He was just recently doing like being mediocre Ironman contests or what's the like climbing shit or whatever, and he wasn't even like doing well at it. He's old, maybe 33. I can wait. I think most likely Darren Waller is just dust. So that's funny. Back on the clock. We're gonna close out. I'm gonna decide on Vele or Franklin. I've been enjoying. Oh, Franklin's gone, so DeVaughn Vele it is. To close out, obviously, I have a Broncos stack here. So let's run down this team, and then we'll pop in and do one more BBM and try to get an elite tight end that I don't have to fricking reach for. By the way, blame if you're here, guys, and I blame you for all the grief and having to explain reaching on George Kittle. Jamar Chase, George Kittle, Tyreek Hill, George Pickens, Cortland Sutton, Caleb Johnson, Ricky Pearsall, Brock Purdy. Go with my Niners stack. Bo Nix stacked with Cortland Sutton. Built out the zero running back room. Zach Charbonnet, Tyjae Spears, Trey Benson, Tyler Allgeier, Will Shipley, and Rico Dowdle. I'm a big fan of the 2772. A great reason to draft a lead tight end is to give you a lot of flex firepower in terms of roster spots that you use there. I have two awesome quarterbacks. I spent 2 top 100 picks on quarterbacks, and I have George Kittle. So I don't need. I bet the farm already on those 2 offenses, especially, and I bet the farm on George Kittle. So Rico Dowdle closed out my running back room. Chig Okonkwo, but then built out. I have Tyjae Spears, Chig Okonkwo, Elic Ayomanor, built out a little Titans secondary thing, and then DeVaughn Vele, whether it was Troy Franklin or Vele. If Pat Bryant went all the way back here, I would like him to, but of course he goes much earlier. But built out the Broncos stack here. So let's go ahead and pop on over and do one more BBM and see if this one doesn't work out a little bit better for us. 20 seconds again. Do not have enough. That's not true. Let's not share this part of the process. How about that? Toss a couple shekels. Onto underdog. I got a sore I just deposited this morning. I think I entered too many slows. I accidentally entered. Yeah. So I'm doing the college football. That's funny. So Bruce is saying, yeah, I saw the rumors. Wow, BBM filled quickly. Nice. Got the 103 this time. That should work out better for an elite tight end. Apparently Najee lost an eye or something in a fireworks incident, but I'm pretty confident we would have heard something if it were real. I think it's bullshit, but it's certainly possible that that it's real. Anything, nothing would surprise me anymore. Sam says, do a drafters. We'll be back on drafters either tomorrow or Friday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern every day. And Wednesdays, usually I've been doing BBMs. So just full transparency on that. Adam says Waller is going to be Tampa version of AB in week 4. That would not surprise me. Will Shipley can be a league winner as a late round flyer if Barkley unfortunately gets hurt, says Michael. I'm with you. I have an absolute truckload of Will Shipley. He's my highest owned player on all sites. Underdog, DraftKings, and Drafters. So I guess I shouldn't say all sites because Fast Draft I do not have. I have not drafted Will Shipley on Fast Draft yet, I don't think. Is it minus EV to draft during the day like this? It's never minus EV to draft with me because I do silly shit like pull up George Kittle too far. I don't think it matters when you draft it, really. Yeah, Rick says we still haven't heard anything about Noah Brown. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that they don't have to tell us what's going on with these players. Like, okay, that maybe sounds pretentious or whatever, but like injury reporting, like we're supposed to take this league serious. I don't know if a Washington receiver just blew out his knee. Is he fine? He could be just totally fine, or he could be getting ACL reconstruction. I don't know, and they haven't told us, and they don't have to tell us. It seems very, very silly. Copy paste dates says that I actually think taking Bowers at the 103 is probably fine. Also, it's just again, it would be Bowers plus JT instead of Bijan and Bowers. Right? Same idea. I don't love it, but if you're like, what's the fucking difference between Jonathan Taylor and Bijan Robinson from a ceiling perspective? And absolutely no one. Now they might be getting JT at the 2-3 turn with Jamar Chase and Brock Bowers occasionally. Now that's what you'll run into some issues there, but don't got to sweat it too hard. Zeus says Najee's been playing blind his whole NFL. His whole NFL career. I think that's fair. Eric, what's the highest you could see Bowers McBride go next year if they hit the ceiling this year? Middle of the first round, 106 or something. That's where peak Travis Kelce was going, like 106, 107 on Underdog. I think if Bowers or McBride do hit their absolute ceiling, right, which is going to require a bunch of touchdowns, but if that happens, if Geno really is that big of an improvement for Bowers, and if Kyler learns how to do jump passes, I guess, at the goal line so he can see Trey McBride in the end zone, then I would say middle of the first. Oh, Zeus says, thank you, Zeus. See, this is why we do these shows, so you guys can inform me about these things. Noah Brown had a fan meet and greet, and a fan claims he's fine. Take that for whatever it's worth. Joey B says Noah Brown is fine. Yeah, I like it. Of course, Bowers and McBride both go. So I'm going to take JT here. Just like straight trolls in these rooms. Joey B says Daniel's wide receiver too. Yeah, I've drafted some Noah Brown. The problem is that I have not been drafting him because I didn't know if he was hurt. I am going to take George Kittle again here to really. I'm just gonna own the people here with the what's my next pick? 46. Yeah, he's not coming back. We're building some fun Kittle teams here, ladies and gents. Am I allowed to do this one? Is everyone going to be angry that I took George Kittle around early? But yeah, I've drafted some Noah Brown I've been waiting on that news. Sam says, "Are you going to Bears training camp?" No. Where is it? I don't really like to go to training camp anymore. I used to go to Rams when the Rams were here in St. Louis. I used to go to Rams training camp like all the time, like most days. I thought I wanted to like write about the NFL back then, and I was a diehard St. Louis Rams fan, like diehard. My buddy's dad had season tickets. We went to a bunch of games. Those were the good old days. But now I like to sit in my basement in the air condition. I'm old and don't like going out and watching crappy football practices in the heat, but also I don't think there's any near me. Unless somebody's practicing in the St. Louis area for training camp. I don't imagine why an NFL team would come to St. Louis for their training camp, however. Oh, Lake Forest. Adam says, "Oh, I'm actually on the Illinois side." He says, "Where in STL are you?" I'm on the Illinois side in the burbs, in the O'Fallon, Illinois area. I'm from a town over here, but that's why when I speak, like we're right, I could throw a rock, and hit St. Louis, but then the greater St. Louis area we include. They call it the Metro East, the Illinois just across the river, because there's literally just the Mississippi River, breaking up Missouri and Illinois, and so then like right on the Illinois, like go right across the river basically, and that's where I am. So we all call ourselves St. Louisans, even though I'm technically an Illinois resident, not a Missouri resident. But yeah, Lake Forest, notably, Sam says, Lake Forest is beautiful, by the way. So yes, they should do their training camps in Lake Forest and not in St. Louis. Lake Forest College, in my college conference. Oh, shoot, I forgot to. Let's see, Jamo. How about we do Hampton just in case the Najee thing is real, huh? I think I'm going to get one of these wide receivers here that I like. You might be asking why, especially why does this year running back, bro, do Amari and Hampton there? A, I love Amari and Hampton, and B, you see Jameson Williams, Devontae Smith, George Pickens, all were still around here, and I was pretty darn certain they weren't all going to go to these 4 picks. So Travis Hunter goes. So yeah, let's do. Devontae Smith or Jamo. Let me think about this now. We'll do Jamo. Make back some of the right. Here's another way. If you're worried about, oh my God, I can't believe you would dare pull up the George Kittle thing, make back some of your ADP value when given the opportunity to do so. Right, Jameson Williams falls a little bit. Like you can kind of make back those combinatorial like speed bumps you ran into. You can make it back. Just take it when it's given to you, even if you may not love that player. It's a great way to kind of still create a combo that isn't sacrificing as much as you might have thought you were going to with the original reach. This is hilarious. I live in O'Fallon, guy. My sister is an O'Fallon teacher, actually. Yeah, we call it St. Louis. Everybody always asks. Oh, you're from St. Louis? Or like, because if you say you're from Illinois, this happens to me. Total humble brag. My DraftKings rep for years would because my address is in Illinois. My DraftKings rep would forget that I'm actually basically local to St. Louis, and everyone thinks if you say you're from Illinois, they assume Chicago. Right? They totally assume Chicago. So they'll send you like perks and stuff, and sometimes the DK VIP reps, like they have like tickets and stuff to like tons of sporting events and all sorts of shit, right? And like so sometimes when they have something and somebody can't take it, or it's open last minute or whatever, they'll offer it to people that are local to the area. Not as much in the St. Louis area. They don't spend as much money, shocker, on St. Louis, but they would be like, hey, we got Cubs tickets tonight or whatever, or Bears tickets or whatever. You want to go? And I'm like, it's the day of. I'm 4.5 hours away, dude. You cannot offer me something I'm on the opposite end of the state from Chicago. But that's what everybody just assumes, that you're from Chicago if you say Illinois. So we always say St. Louis, always. And we claim St. Louis more than Chicago anyway. Huhaim says Southern Illinois. Yeah. But people think that's the boonies, which some of it is. There's plenty of areas that are quite country around where we're at. But it's hard to describe. Like, you tell people St. Louis, they think Missouri. You tell people Illinois, they think Chicago. You say Southern Illinois, they think you're a total hick. It's a interesting hurdle to navigate. Yeah, Ivan says if you say St. Louis, local people then, like, if you say O'Fallon, so there's an O'Fallon, Missouri, and an O'Fallon, Illinois, and they're not far apart. They're not that like 45 minutes to an hour separated. And so people be like, oh, O'Fallon, oh, Illinois or Illinois. You don't have to answer that question, right? Sure, Addison plays against Jameson Williams, gives me outs to another quarterback in JJ McCarthy. I don't take Addison like a ton. I am a little spooked by his legal situation and the fact he's a fucking dumbass. But nonetheless, I think he's a good fit on this team with JT, Hampton, CeeDee Lamb, Jameson Williams, Jordan Addison, and of course, the elite Mr. George Kittle. The DeMont prices are getting pretty good. Do we stack the Lions? Let's skip Pearsall this time. I think we've done enough Ricky Pearsall, or like a Jayden Reed. Let's do a Jayden Reed here. I've been trying to get a little bit more of him as well. Pull him over. A little bit more of a right side of the board player is Jayden Reed. So just move him a little tick to the left-hand side. And I think that's another way to kind of offset some of the like Kittle things. Kittle's kind of been a little bit all over the board. And so then taking him with some left side of the board guys, some right side of the board guys, another way to kind of, right? JT very much so a left side of the board player. Jayden Reed, very much so a right side of the board player in terms of ADP. Yeah, Joey articulated it better than I did. It says, I know Addison will fall to the 180s once his suspension comes out, but I still like clicking him now. I think this is it. I actually am like okay with Addison, like just as a player, as a click, but I just know, everyone knows he's getting suspended. Everyone. He knows it. Everybody knows it. And yet, once the suspension is official, he's going to plummet in ADP. And it doesn't make any sense because we know it's happening. And yet he's for sure. So that it's owning real estate in my brain to be like, I know his court hearings late this month, I think, end of July, mid to late July, something. I just know that once that happens, he's going to get suspended and then we're going to get the dip in the price. And I can't shake the fact that, like, yeah, but if you have 80 of your teams drafted before then and you never take them, you're never going to get him on these George Kittle teams or whatever. So I need to just suck it up and take some of them. But it's a very big mental hurdle that I'm trying to clear. Perfect. Bruce asks about the quarterbacks in the same Week 17 game. Thank you for bringing it back up. Would you take JJ, aka JJ McCarthy, and Jared Goff on this team, or is that minus EV to take quarterbacks in the same Week 17 game? I truly don't think that matters. I don't care. It's only one game. There's no math that says to me, like, every quarterback's ceiling is not like the floor for every quarterback is not changed by being in the same game as the other quarterback, and the ceiling is probably unchanged as well. Like taking a different game, I understand. Like it feels weird. It's one of those. I think it feels weird, as opposed to like is weird. Oh boy. You know what? Let's do Keon here. Trying to decide if I'm going to do freaking Purdy again, but there's just nothing. Like, I don't really know why, other than it feels weird. You're like, oh man, if this game fails, it's like, so what? Why does that? Any game can fail. Having your quarterbacks in that one same game just like doesn't matter. But I do think we've put our brain in a pretzel, thinking about that thing. I've heard it talked about. There is absolutely no need to apologize, but just like, I think it's something that has come up over the years, and I'm not sure how it happened when we got really obsessed with week 17. I think, oh, Purdy, who did? Let's go get my guy Trey Harris here instead. I'm not doing Brandon Ayuk. I have notably moved. Obviously, if you're watching, you probably saw that I passed on Brandon Ayuk, and you're thinking, what's wrong with this guy? Why would he pass on Brandon Ayuk here? A, Purdy did go off the board, but B, I'm out. I'm out at these prices on Brandon. You can have him ranked in, I don't know, 125 or something like that. I think he's going to fall as well. Can you elaborate, Kai? You're betting on ceilings every week and then hoping you only see floors on that bye week. Can you elaborate on that? I'm not sure. Doesn't Jailbird wide receiver 2 Addison feel way grosser over a wide receiver? Yeah. I like Olave, I think, better than you do. Feel way grosser over a wide receiver 1 Judy and Olave, says copy paste dates. I mean, Olave's like, I don't even think Jerry Judy is all that good at football. He was extremely inefficient last season and was just volume based. And the Browns are not in the same situation that they were last year for his volume. So I think Olave is just like actually good and has dealt with terrible quarterback play and probably will still again. But I can't confirm for sure that JJ McCarthy is going to be good. So they both kind of have a little bit of scary quarterback play issues. They just one has the Vikings ecosystem, which is incredible, and KOC at the helm, which is incredible. But I like Olave. I think I like Olave more than you do. But the sentiment I agree with. There's a lot of guys who I don't really love in that range. That it's hard to hold too much against Addison. I think it really just is, as we kind of started to talk it through. I think it really just is I know what's going to happen. We've done this this is year 6 of underdog best ball mania, right? And year 1 billion of fantasy football. Like when the news comes out, they fall, whether it's supposed to be baked in or not. The guys are just going to fall. Whether or not they admit it, people are drafting Olave assuming he's also going to miss 3 games, says Benny. I think that's probably true. The Olave price is because everybody's scared about the concussions, even more so than the offensive environment. The offensive environment is certainly a factor and a big one. I'm just saying that the guy has very real concussion issues. If a tight end drops 20 plus on week 14 while you eat a 0, not great. You want them all in load. Yeah, for sure. Not that many tight ends ever drop 20 points. It doesn't happen very often. And now we're talking about it from in terms of how many guys going in from round 16 on score 20 points ever in a season, and then specifically pinpointing week 14 that they're going to score. Look at this. Najee available. That's hilarious. I need to start looking. Let's do McCarthy. Let's do JJ McCarthy. Probably should have taken Dobbins, but I wanted to just in case I wanted to do double dip quarterback here. I wanted to if I wanted Jordan Love. Let's see what my exposure is looking like. Oh wow. I can do Herbert, who I do very much like, but as you see, I have 16% Herbert, 33% Herbert with JJ McCarthy. Jordan Love, however, I have 7%, which is okay. And this will get me overweight Jordan Love, but I don't have him. I don't have Jordan Love with like basically any of these guys that I've drafted thus far. So I like that. If Tucker Kraft comes back around, I would be happy to kind of build that supercharged tight end room with Kittle and Kraft, who I also very much like. I'm trying to get a little bit more Packers. John says Olave. What word was I just about to say? Olave's highest scoring game being a 19.2 and a half PPR is surprising. Not the highest ceiling, but he's solid at his price. I also think that isn't his true ceiling. That is the highest result that he's had. If you remember a couple years ago, the Olave air yard stuff, it was a little bit of it became a little bit of a meme, but he was like, he gets targeted down the field, he gets targeted in the end zone. He's just had really, really horrible quarterback play. And, I think it was Matt Harmon, shout out Matt Harmon with Reception Perception, talked about, doing the charting and grading that he does for all the receivers. But then he talked about Chris Olave being like, I'm so sick of watching Chris Olave wide open and them not throw him the ball, or wide open and them throw it over his head, right? Or just get uncatchable targets. And you could easily say, well, that's the problem because he's probably going to continue to get that. And he probably is. But I think that there's still upside. He's too good for his price as him in a vacuum standalone player. But the ecosystem that he's in and the surrounding factors are a pretty serious problem for Chris Olave that I get. And I'm not trying to take a big stand on him. He's not, in my opinion, even though I think the price is good on him, he's not like what I think is going to win me best ball tournaments. I frequently say I'll take my medicine. I'm going to do a little more than my medicine probably of Chris Olave, but I'm not going to go crazy. Shuby says, have you been taking Laporta at all? Hold on. Let me go to all drafts over here. Hold on. Let's find out together how much Sam Laporta I have. Across 448 best ball teams, I have 4% Sam Laporta. That helps. 5% on Underdog, 2% on DraftKings, 4% on Drafts. Oh shit, I'm on the clock. Oh, Trey Benson is fine. Trey Benson's totally fine on this team. Okay, let me get back. But 4% Sam Laporta for me across all three sites. Pretty wide open here to do whatever we want to do. I don't mind this. It's really pissing me off. I need to update my draft hacker. They dropped this new UI and it messed up the layout of the draft hacker and stuff. So if you have a subscription, all you got to do is update your extension. If you have automatic updates, that'll fix it. But you can also go in and force an update with your browser extension. Ooh, a lot of Guerendo. I could do the Cowboys thing. Let's just do Guerendo. I have so much Ferg, aka Jake Ferguson, that I'm trying to keep that in a little bit in check. Let's see. Dials has been fading Judy every year. Not going to let one fluky breakout change anything. And the crazy thing is he didn't, like, the counting stats broke out last year, but it was the Browns led the NFL in pass attempts. I don't think anyone's expecting that to happen again. And so it was like straight volume based. He ran a lot of routes and didn't really get targeted a lot or gain a lot of yards per route. He just ran a ton of routes and they threw a ton of passes. If we recall, Jameis Winston had a decent amount to do with that. Now, they played a bunch of quarterbacks, but Jameis was a big piece of the whole shit show that was the Cleveland Browns, right? They were willing to throw too many passes probably by their standards. And then Jameis does the old interception stuff all the time that puts you in a big hole, which leads to more pass attempts. And it's like this self-fulfilling, the Jameis Winston experience is a self-fulfilling prophecy of a million pass attempts. And I just, even if they're not good, I think that's like the easiest regression to spot. More than we talked about Trey McBride, touchdown regression, Brock Bowers, touchdown regression, all that kind of stuff earlier. The easiest regression, in my opinion, to spot or to bet on, not necessarily to spot, but maybe to spot, is passing volume. The teams who threw an outlier number of few passes or an outlier number of significant amount of passes, high volume of passes, like on both, it kind of all the mush in the middle is whatever. But like, so like the Eagles and the Bills, you're just more likely to throw more. It doesn't mean they're going to become right? They're not going to become the Chiefs. Not going to become one of the highest passing volume teams. But to be so astronomically low, like, how is it going to happen, right? The Eagles have a great offensive line. They have Saquon Barkley. They have a good defense, all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying I foresee them throwing a ton of passes, and I'm not even saying I can explain how or why it happens. But it's just mathematically and from a variance perspective, almost assuredly they're going to throw more this year than they threw last year. How much? I don't know. The same thing goes for the Browns. And so that's also a bit of a concern for David Njoku, who I do like. But, those are real, like the easiest things to kind of like I said, spot something changing. God bless. I should have really planned ahead better here. Oh, we'll do a little Gesicki. We'll do a little Gesicki. That's true. Having 4 QEs may mean they throw even more. Notably, if you have 4 quarterbacks, I think that means the old saying is you don't have one. We take Gesicki. Christ almighty. Running back is bleak already. Good thing I did JT on this team. Man. Braelon and Dowdle. I'm going to take one of Braelon or Dowdle, but I'm a little annoyed at the amount of them that I have here with all of these guys. I'm going to take Braelon if he's available. Okay. Sorry. I'm not a Roshan guy, in case you haven't noticed there. Stone cold 0 Roshan so far. But all right, 15 picks in. CeeDee Lamb, Jonathan Taylor, George Kittle, because this is an elite tight end show. Amari and Hampton, just in case the Najee thing is real. Also, I just love Amari and Hampton. Jameson Williams, Jordan Addison, Jayden Reed, Keon Coleman, and Trey Harris. Those are stylistically some wide receivers I really like to draft. So I took an elite tight end, right? George Kittle in the 3rd round, plus Jonathan Taylor running back in the 2nd round. So even though I have CeeDee Lamb, I am probably digging out of a hole at wide receiver. Also took Amari and Hampton, really probably behind at wide receiver, despite taking CeeDee Lamb in the 1st round. So you start to make it back, right? Jameson Williams, Jordan Addison, Jayden Reed. And then we take like some swings. I'm not a huge Keon Coleman guy, but if the Bills do pass more, like we said, or Keon takes a 2nd year leap with the Bills, Trey Harris, one of my guys, one of my rookies. If Trey Harris is really good, and he's on this Chargers offense that we're all expecting to be pretty solid, making big plays. Having that archetype of player when I'm trying to dig out of a hole a little bit at the wide receiver position, I like double dip my 2 quarterbacks in the quarterback window again, JJ McCarthy and Jordan Love, then double back for some running backs, Trey Benson, Isaac Guerendo, close out tight end with Mike Gesicki, and take Braelon Allen. I'll probably have 8. So probably be 2-6-8-2 team here, 2 quarterbacks, 6 running backs, 8 wide receivers, and 2 tight ends. Because I actually do feel like we dug out of the wide receiver hole pretty well, shockingly. And second running back or second wide receiver being Jameson Williams in the 5th. Good Lord. Waller going in the 14th seems bad, says Zeus. Lazaro, Stone Cold, 0. Olave so far. I have no problem fading Olave, honestly. Even if the volume goes down, the passes have to be better than Watson DTR passes at least. You would think, though I'm not sure any of their guys that are making me all that confident. Let me think. Let me just take a peek-see here. Let's do Marshawn Lloyd to go with my Packers stuff. Gosh dang it. I keep close out running back with Marshawn Lloyd. I don't have like a ton of him, but I'm okay on a Packers team. Building him in here. Now I need 2 wide receivers. Let's see who's popping out. Oh, God. Dontavian Wicks. No, thank you. How about I didn't get Franklin on the other team. Let's do Troy Franklin on this team. And then I got an idea for round 18 here. But I'm not going to say it because this stream has not gone exactly according to plan with the elite tight ends, because I spent 30 minutes talking about it and then had to do some crazy George Kittle shit. Because apparently when you talk about elite tight ends, you don't end up getting in the best Ball Mania rooms where Trey McBride or Brock Bowers fall. Michael says, I've been to St. Louis twice and really loved it. They need an NFL team. Yeah, they ain't getting an NFL team. We shout out Stan fucking Kroenke for ripping the Rams away from us and running to LA. Scumbag. But yeah, I straight up do love St. Louis. And, I understand the flaws. I understand the elitists, the coastal elitists that would mock someone for enjoying a goofy city like St. Louis in the middle of the Midwest. But yeah, I love it here. It's very diverse. There's we kind of have a little bit of everything except beaches, but it's a great place. It's a great place to live. Michael says, also, in a start 11, is Dyami Brown a flex option? You bet your ass Dyami Brown is a flex option. Start 11, hell yeah. Let's see here. Jerry Jeudy buries me this year. I'll start DMing Steve Smith, by the way, notably Steve Smith. Coming back around to the 18th round. Mentioned we took Marshawn Lloyd to go with my Packers stack, Troy Franklin, because those late round Broncos wide receivers are kind of a priority for me now. I love Jalen Royals. I love Torrey Horton. Those are my rookie guys, my favorite rookie guys back there. Troy Franklin, DeVaughn Vele. I'm a big fan of. Tutu available here. I do actually like Tutu, but the correct pick on this Vikings team, rookie 3rd rounder, Ty Felton, who RIP to our boy Jalen Naylor, who we drafted some of last year, but I think the correct answer this year is Ty Felton, rookie out of Maryland. Could also help during, could get a couple extra usable weeks, fingers crossed, during the Jordan Addison suspension that is inevitable at the start of the season. So just a quick rundown again: CeeDee Lamb, Jonathan Taylor, George Kittle, because we draft elite tight ends here on Elite Tight Ends Show. Amari and Hampton. So only one wide receiver through the first 4 rounds. Got a little nice fall on Jameson Williams in the 5th. I like that. Jordan Addison, aforementioned, in the 6th. Jayden Reed, Keon Coleman, Trey Harris, JJ McCarthy, and Jordan Love for Vikings and Packers. Stacks, Trey Benson, Isaac Guerendo at running back, just building out that room there. Mike Gesicki, who I mentioned, is probably my favorite. I guess he classifies as a late round tight end, I guess. It's not the very end. He goes around pick 170, but I very much like Mike Gesicki. No Eric all around to steal snaps from Mike Gesicki this year, and not much defense being played in Cincinnati, so they might need Gesicki out there like they did down the stretch. Braelon Allen and Marshawn Lloyd to close out the running back room, and then Troy Franklin and Ty Felton to close out the wide receiver room. Felton, they said, will be on special teams. Yeah, that's good. That means he's going to play. He's going to be active on game days. When you're a depth wide receiver, you play special teams. Jameson Williams played special teams. I'm not worried. That doesn't mean he's not going to. That doesn't mean. I mean, they have 2 stud wide receivers, so he would be, mixing into the slot / the wide receiver 3. He's versatile. He can play in the slot. He can play on the outside. I like that about his game and fit with Minnesota, and they spent a 3rd round pick on him. Like it was real draft. It was a little surprising at the draft, the amount of draft capital that they spent, but they did spend it nonetheless. And so I'm into Ty Felton. Not like anything crazy. I think I don't have like much, but round 18, maybe a little bit better in the 20 rounds. Dare I say he's a little bit better on DraftKings. But I do like him. I think he's a pretty solid late in the mix, right? In my rotation of 18th round picks. Perfect timing. Looks like the Puppy 2 is live. I am going to get out of here. I got to get my ass to the gym and go get in shape here for a hot best ball summer. But maybe tomorrow we'll do some Puppy 2, or later this week we'll definitely be doing some drafters, some DraftKings. Be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Wheel draft time on Thursdays. Go enjoy the Puppy. Go enjoy your college football drafts. I believe the NBA tournament is going to launch today or tomorrow or something as well. It's a great time to be in the best ball streets. It's also a great time and a great year to draft the big 3 elite tight ends. Hit like, please, if you don't mind, hit that like button on the way out. Be much appreciated. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.